Hello students, this is Miss Dalton, and this video is adding and subtracting polynomial, and it goes in our unit polynomial operations. All right, so to begin with, you want to make sure that all of your final answers, when you write your final answer, they need to be written in standard form, meaning that they need to be in descending degree order. That means that the exponent should decrease from left to right. So if I'm looking at this example right here, f of x equals 3x plus 5x to the 6th minus 4 plus 9x to the 3rd. I want to write my answer in descending order. The highest exponent is this 5x to the 6th. So 5x to the 6th is going to come first. Then I'm going to write my next highest exponent, which is this plus 9x to the 3rd. Then my next one would be the plus 3x. And then last but not least, I would put minus 4. So make sure all of your answers will be written in descending order. Okay, so let's first look at adding. When you are adding, you're finding the sum, so that's another word that you might see. When you are adding, all you're doing is you're collecting like terms. And then you're going to write it in standard form. Well, when you're collecting like terms, you're looking for variables and exponents that are exactly the same, and you're just going to add your coefficients out front. Now, I usually start with my highest exponent because I know I'm going to have to write it in descending order. So if I'm adding together px plus q of x, p of x is here, which is this expression. Q of x is here, which is this expression. So when I'm adding them up, those are the expressions I'm adding. When I look at those two expressions, my highest exponent is this 5x to the 4th. So I'm going to add it to 3x to the 4th, which becomes 8x to the 4th. Notice that I just added the coefficients. Your variable and your exponents stay exactly the same. My next highest would be an x to the 3rd. Well, I have it minus x to the 3rd. I do not have an x to the 3rd over in q of x, so I'm just going to write down the minus x to the 3rd. Next I have 4x squared plus 6x squared. That's going to give you 10x squared. Then I have negative x that would need to come next. There's no x over here, so I'm just going to put a minus x. And then last but not least, I would have this positive 2. Nothing would get added to that as well, so I would just leave it like that. Okay, now it's your turn. Go ahead and try adding the next two together. Pause your video, and then when you're ready to check your answer, come back on. All right, you should have negative x to the 7th plus 3x to the 4th plus 2x squared. And then notice that the negative x and the positive x, those ended up canceling. And so that is all we have there. The next example, when you're trying to find a missing term, so we're trying to find this piece right here. Notice we're adding, and I should get this as my final answer. So let's start with the x squared. Over here, I have a negative 4x squared. I don't have an x squared here, and together it should add up to 2x squared. Well, negative 4 plus what is going to give you 2? Hopefully you see that that should be a 6x squared. That must be what is missing, because then if I look at the 6x plus 8x, well, that gives me 14x, and 3 plus 5, that gives me 8, and so that must be the missing term. So you have to kind of work backwards to find the missing term. All right, in this example right here, we've got an application problem. Okay, so let's say we've got this picture frame, and we're going to frame this picture. The picture is 10 inches by 8 inches, and x represents the width of the frame. So you can see here that I've labeled the width of the frame here as x, the width of the frame here is x, here and here, and the inside picture is 10 by 8. So I've gone ahead and labeled that for you. Now let's go ahead and figure out what our length is. Now I tend to do horizontal as my length. So from this side all the way over to this side, what is that? Well, I've got x, and I've got 8, and I've got x. So if I have to do x plus 8 plus x, you're going to see that that length is 2x plus 8. Okay? Well, now let's look at the width. The width goes from this side all the way down to this side here, and you can see that I've got x here, then I'm going to add to it 10, then I'm going to add this x here. So you can see that this would be 2x plus 10. So my width is 2x plus 10, and my length is 2x plus 8. Now they're asking me, write an expression to represent the perimeter. Well, remember, perimeter, let me change the color of this. Perimeter is just the outside all the way around. You can see that you have 2 lengths and 2 widths. So a lot of the times we just use the formula 2L plus 2W. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to plug in my length. So 2 times my length, which is 2x plus 8, plus 2 times my width, 2x plus 10. And now go ahead and figure out what that is. Okay, so I would have to distribute my 2. So that would give you 4x plus 16. And distribute your 2 here. That would give you 4x plus 20. And then combine like terms. 4x plus 4x is 8x. 16 plus 20 is 36. So this is my perimeter and my label of inches. All right, let's go ahead and move on to subtraction. Now, the only difference with subtraction is when you are subtracting, you're going to have something minus something. Well, you're going to have to distribute that negative through that second expression, because a minus something is like taking -1 and multiplying it by everything after it. So you are going to have to distribute the negative sign to all terms of the expression that is being subtracted. Then you are going to collect like terms. So pay attention to how you are subtracting. In this particular example, I'm going to take P of x and I'm going to subtract Q of x. So my P of x is here. I'm going to subtract the Q of x. So I'm going to copy Q of x down right underneath it. And notice I'm going to try to line up the correct parts. If anything's missing, then I'm going to just put that on to the end of it. So I'm going to subtract 4x to the 5th. Okay, negative x to the 4th does not have anything lined up with it, so I'm just going to put it on the end here. X to the 3rd, there's not an x to the 3rd, so I'm just going to put plus x cubed. And then minus 2x squared, well, I'm going to put that underneath the x squared, so I can add those straight down. And then plus x goes under here, and then plus 8 goes under here. And so what I'm doing is I'm subtracting this whole second expression. So I'm going to have to distribute that through to everything. So what I do is I change this to a plus. This is what I'm doing when I'm distributing. And I change the sign of everything. So this becomes a minus, this becomes a plus, minus, minus, plus, minus. And then now you can add them just straight down. So you have x to the fifth minus 4x to the fifth. So that would be a negative 3x to the fifth. Now, after x to the fifth comes x to the fourth. So I'm going to write this down next. There's nothing that gets added to it, so I'm just going to write it down. And then x to the third would come next, so that's this one, minus x to the third. Now I can combine my x squareds. But notice I've got negative 2x squared plus 2x squared. Well, those cancel. Then I have plus x minus x. That cancels as well. And then I have 7 minus 8. So 7 minus 8 would be minus 1. And so that's what my p of x minus q of x is. Okay, you do this next one, but pay attention. This time we're taking q of x and we're subtracting p of x. So pause the video and go ahead and try it on your own and press play when you're ready to check your answer. I'm going to go ahead and start setting it up. So hopefully you remembered to distribute the negative. So change this to a plus, negative, plus, negative, negative, and then combine like terms. 4x to the fifth minus x to the fifth would be 3x to the fifth minus x to the fourth plus x to the third. Minus 2x squared plus 2x squared cancel, plus x minus x cancels, and 8 minus 7 is a positive 1. And if you'll notice, these, when you do p of x minus q of x and q of x minus p of x, hopefully you notice these are just the opposites of each other. And that will happen every time. Sometimes I change up the problems though, so be careful and don't just assume that the p of x and q of x are exactly the same. Okay, so this last one, this one's a little bit tricky, so I'm going to help you with it. We're trying to find our missing term. So our missing term is right here. Now, let's start with the b to the third. So I have a negative b to the third. I don't have a b to the third here, which means that it's the missing one. And then it should equal 5b to the third. So let's set that up. Negative b to the third. Remember, we're subtracting, so we need to do minus what equals 5b to the third. So if you're looking at this, what would I have to add to a negative? Remember, this is a negative 1. So negative 1 plus what is going to give you 5? Well, hopefully you see that this needs to be a 6b to the third. But that's after I distribute my negative. So if I just put a 6b to the third in there, when I distribute my negative, you're going to see that, well, if I distribute my negative, then now this is going to become a negative. Well, that's not going to work. So what I need is originally, I need this to be a positive, or I'm sorry, a negative, so that now when I distribute the minus, now it turns into a positive. So the missing, what's missing inside here is negative 6b to the third. So let me kind of show you that again. If I have minus a negative, that's going to turn into a positive, which is what I need for this to be a 5. So my missing term is a negative 6b to the third. Now this one's kind of challenging. I don't really, you're not going to have a whole lot of these challenge problems, but I do want you to see that so that you can pick up on that. So hopefully this is helpful. Please reach out to me if you have questions, and we will do practice problems in class.